welcome to Real Chicks Rock Presents Real Discussions. I am your host, Michelle Dawes-Bird, and as always, I'm super excited to be here. It is another beautiful day in the neighborhood here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're just so thankful that you decided to spend a little time with us this afternoon. I want to welcome all of our new guests to the show. Let me give you a little bit of background about what Real Chicks Rock's all about. We're all about creatively collaborating and connecting to raise awareness regarding issues that impact women. And we do it by way of community service, public speaking, mentoring. We have workshops, and we do it by this podcast. I've been so fortunate to have various different people come here. We talk about a lot of different things, and today is no different. Today we are going to pay it forward. We're paying it forward with my guest today, DeVonn Baker. DeVonn, how are you?
I'm doing excellent, Michelle. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. You seem like a mild-mannered man, but we're going to get into who you are and what you do. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. The topic, paying it forward. Give us a little background about who you are. Where are you from, DeVonn?
Okay, so I'm originally from a small town called Eatonville, Florida.
Is that right?
Eatonville, Florida is about 5-10 minutes outside of downtown Orlando.
Okay.
And it's the oldest incorporated African-American municipality in the country.
Did not know that.
Yes. Have you ever heard of Zora Neale Hurston?
Yes.
The Eyes Are Watching God, that's her home. And she writes about Eatonville, Florida.
Wow. So, Eatonville, Florida, how did we get from Eatonville? Well, let me ask you this. When you were a little kid, did you think about going to college? Did you always have that aspiration of attending a college?
So I'm going to tell you just a little background about me as well. So I'm the youngest of 6. Mm-hmm. The youngest one next to me is 15 years older than me.
Yes.
And so my grandmother started the first school for African Americans in her community called Waltula, Florida. My mother has a degree in librarian science and also a degree in mortuary science.
Wow.
So she started off in mortuary science first.
Wow.
And my mother was actually a single mother of 2. Mm-hmm. And so she left to go to college, and my grandmother took care of them. And so, and they were very poor. I mean, they had a little shotgun house. Now, however, they did have about 11 so acres of land, 12 acres of land, but they had the shotgun house. So,
yes.
And then my mom married my father, who had 3 kids, who he was raising on his own. Mm-hmm. They got together and had me. So from an early age, I knew education. I knew about going to school.
Yes.
And since my sisters and brother, my brother was the first African-American to attend and graduate from Central Florida to attend and graduate from the Air Force Academy. My sisters, everybody else went to Florida A&M. Yeah. So when I was like 5 or 6 years old, I was on the campus of Florida A&M hanging out.
You was at FAMU? You was partying?
I was partying at FAMU.
At FAM at 5.
At 5 years old.
At FAM at 5. But I want to talk about your mom. The librarian degree and mortuary. What is the librarian degree? What is that? Does that mean she is a conduit, a source of...
Well, my mother was a history buff. So she got the mortuary science degree first.
Yes.
So, and this is going to lead into another part of how I got into Morehouse College.
Right.
So she went to this School of Mortuary Science. This was right down the street. Mm-hmm. I think this was like the 50s or so, right down the street from Morehouse College. Mm-hmm. And so she was asking her friends or her classmates, who are all these dudes walking down the street, with these shirts and ties and everything. And they're like, oh, well, they go to Morehouse. She's like, Morehouse? Yeah, they're Morehouse men. Like, oh, okay. So that kind of, so she was in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Then she ended up going to Florida A&M to go to school. So my mother integrated, along with 3 other black women, integrated Orange County Public Schools as librarians.
Okay.
So she worked at, elementary school as a librarian. And that's how, or in middle school as a librarian. That's how she met my other siblings, my dad's, and she was very impressed. She was like, "Oh, these are very smart kids. I wonder who's the parents." Yeah. And my father was a widower, and she met my dad, and they got together.
Wow, and it fused, and that was the magic that happened.
That was the magic that happened.
Wow. So your lineage has always been respectful of education, just knowledge.
Right.
And the first. There's a lot of firsts.
It's a lot of firsts until I was born, and I tried to buck the system, but they didn't let it.
What did you try to do?
Oh man, I mean, my mom's a librarian. So that means, everybody thought I read a lot, and I did read, but I was like, I ain't reading all these books. I ain't trying to do all that,
right.
Growing up in Eatonville, and sometimes in black neighborhoods, it's not always cool to be smart.
Right. Yeah.
However, it is very cool to be extremely smart.
Yes.
And
smart is the new sexy.
It is.
Well, it's always been sexy.
It is.
Yeah.
And my sons are teaching me that cool and being smart is extremely cool because they're very smart and they're very talented.
Yes. And you don't have to compromise anything. It takes us a while to understand that, but that is actually operating in your truth.
Exactly.
Just being who you are and just and not allowing other people's perceptions or opinions to govern how you move.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and me, I love the flow.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. It's my flow.
Yeah.
I just like to be where I am and just totally embrace that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I can just flow and make sure I'm in every space that I want to be in.
Okay. So even though the roots are in Eatonville, Florida, we got people at FAMU. Florida is in our blood.
Oh, all the way.
Right? All the way. Why did we choose Morehouse?
Well, going back, my mother was on that School of Mortuary Science. She always wanted a Morehouse man. That's what she prayed for. She always wanted a son who attended Morehouse. Yes. And so my oldest brother, Richard, who ended up at Air Force Academy, my dad was like, well, that school is free, so you go in there. And I think he wanted to go to Morehouse, but he was like, nope, that's free. My brother Michaels did some mortuary science, so he didn't go to Morehouse, and so I was the last hope. So my mom found ways to kind of drop nuggets here or there. I used to do a lot of public speaking when I was younger, so I used to, always do the I Have a Dream speech and stuff like that and everything. And so when I realized Martin Luther King Jr. went to Morehouse, and then I heard the Glee Club. I saw them on TV for something. I was younger, and I was like, and then a lot of black men who were in the Orlando community, Eatonville, Orlando, Winter Park community, did some amazing things. They were, the first black city councilman was a Morehouse man. Morehouse men started one of the first black banks in Central Florida. You had them just doing so many different things, and I was like, I'm going to Morehouse.
Yeah, you going to Morehouse. So that was it. Were you able to go on a scholarship, or you guys had to?
Oh, no. I was the black sheep of the family. What I'm saying? My mom said, you're just as smart as your brothers and sisters, even smarter. However, I was like, I bucked the trend. But I ended up going to Morehouse. I wanted to go to a HBCU in the big city.
Okay.
So it was Howard and Morehouse.
All right.
I wasn't going to FAM because everybody else was going to FAM. I wasn't. That would be like high school number 2 for me.
Right.
Although FAM is a great school. Yeah. I'll go to a FAM game and hang out with them all day.
Yeah.
But it was Morehouse that I had to be. I had to go to Morehouse.
Yeah, and no shade to the other HBCUs, right? But it seems like some very influential, life-changing individuals go to FAMU,
right?
Howard, Morehouse.
Yeah, and don't forget Spelman. And Spelman. But you know what? Look,
that's no shade.
But I'm gonna tell you, let's keep it 100. When I was growing up in Central Florida, I had friends. Their parents went to Tennessee State, South Carolina State. They, Bethune-Cookman, Florida Memorial. I was surrounded by people from all HBCUs, so I never really thought about just pointing out just a Morehouse or a Spelman or Howard. Yeah. Because we would travel and go to games. So South Carolina State every year chartered a bus from Orlando to go to Orangeburg to go to a football game. I was on that bus. Yeah. So I was very influenced. And then some of the people, I was also a member of Jack and Jill growing up. Nice. And my mother ended up being, she wrote the first history, co-wrote the first history of Jack and Jill, and was the national archivist for Jack and Jill. So I was just surrounded so much culturally by our people and by people who were doing outstanding things from other HBCUs. It was just so dope. I didn't realize it at the time. And then, when I think about it, I get goosebumps and shivers because I'm like, look at all these outstanding people who were around me, influencing me as I was growing up.
Awesome. Let's talk about the Morehouse years. So we're at Morehouse. It's freshman year.
Freshman year.
Talk to me about that. What experiences did you have in your freshman year at Morehouse?
Well, the first experience I had was, or early experience, and it was on national TV. We all got food poisoning. What? Just about, yeah. Hey, listen, I'm telling you, it was rough. And luckily, you know, I was the first one into the restroom, whatever. Everybody else was trying to find places. They had it on CBS News. They said the men at Morehouse got food poisoning. And my mom, because my dad, when he dropped me off, he was like, he went to the restroom. He was like, oh, I'll wait. I'm going to go to the hotel.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, he was like, you know, I don't know. You know, he's like, hey, dude, you're on your own, baby. You're on your own. And, you know, and you know, for that time, that was okay.
Yes.
For this time, that's not okay, because the experiences on the young men and young women, and where they go to schools, their facilities are a lot better in high school. So you know, you have to make a decision. But that was my first experience. Then, my best friend, one of my best friends, Ernest White III, talked me into auditioning for the Morehouse College Glee Club. I was like, you know, I used to sing in the choir and when I was, you know, at church, you know, whatever, growing up. I'm not singing the Glee Club. I'm not going to be at the Glee Club.
Because that ain't cool, right?
Right. I ain't going to sing the Glee Club.
That ain't cool.
I'm not doing it. And he convinced me. So I got in the Glee Club. And then the next thing you know, we're traveling all over the city of Atlanta, singing and everything. It was great.
Yes.
And then we found out that Ebony Man, which was big, you know, magazine back then, they wanted to do this feature on Morehouse College, and they did. So they highlighted the different men who were fraternities and whatnot, and they highlighted the Morehouse College Glee Club, and we're in the center fold of Ebony Man magazine. My picture's there.
Now, Ebony Man, is that the offspring of Ebony magazine?
Yes,
and
Ebony,
Ebony and
Jet.
Publication.
Oh man, yes,
that came out of Chicago. Okay,
you know,
just set the stage. Because I want people to know how big that was.
Oh, that was big
during that time.
Oh my God, it was so big. So now I'm gonna tell you something. You know, I mean, I know this is, you know, I was a teenager, so I didn't know better, but I had all the Jet beauties on my wall. Growing up,
every young black man did. Come on, she was the item. The beauty of the week was
the
page
beauty
42,
of the week.
42.
Oh my God!
And the boys be mad because the Staples was right in the middle. Isn't that right?
I'm knocking over the microphone. We dropped the mic. I think this interview is over right now. Oh my God, Lord have mercy. I had a good time.
Every young black
man. Yeah, well, not every, because I went to a lot of my friends' house. They didn't have it, but they would come to my house and they're like, man, and everybody would stop and just look at the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, you got that one?
Yeah.
Oh, you got so. And and also find out these women who were Jet beauties were very accomplished as well, and you know many of them were in college, and many of them were college queens and whatnot, and what have you. So, I forgot the question. You threw me off track. I just started thinking about the Jet beauties.
The early years. So you had some of your experiences there your freshman year.
So then I was in that, and then we had the opportunity. I had the opportunity to go on tour with the Morehouse College Glee Club, and we recorded the song called "I'm Building Me a Home," which was the lead song, the opening song for School Days. So it was on the soundtrack. So I did that, and then finally, the coup de grace was, we recorded with Felicia Rashad, Bill Cosby, one of the shows on the Cosby Show, and the Morehouse College Glee Club and Spelman Glee Clubs were singing together. We sang, and I had a close up at one point in that on the Cosby Show. So I mean, that was my experience.
Your freshman year, your early years.
My early years, and then School Day. I mean, School Days came out the following year, but I mean, it was dynamic. Spike Lee used to be on the yard and everything, because it was electric.
Wow. How did you stay grounded and focused with all that going on, all that attention and things going on? You wasn't?
No, I wasn't that. I was grounded to a certain extent. However, I'm gonna tell you how you can stay grounded, because all the young men and women who were at Morehouse Spelman, Clark Atlanta, and Morehouse Brown at the time.
Yes.
All of us were accomplished in our own right. You can only get so big-headed. I mean, it's like, you know, someone is out there who's just as good and better and stronger, what have you, smarter than you. So, you know, and we always talk about each other. We're always cutting up on each other. So we talking a lot of smack. There's a lot of smack talking going on. And especially when you're in the Glee Club. And I was a freshman, so basically I was kind of like going through that little freshman thing. You know how they kind of haze you a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how.
Okay. So while you're there, even with all that going on, you pursued a major in banking and finance?
Yeah, I pursued. Yeah. So the reason why I went into Morehouse thinking I was going to do political science, I wanted to be a lawyer, right? And everybody's like, well, you're an orator, you do this, you need to, and so one of my friends, this dude named Sam Howard, we call him Buddy. He was like, well, I'm gonna be a banking and finance major. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of smooth. What's banking and finance? And actually I met Buddy the year before, the summer before we went to Morehouse, because we had Jack and Jill Regional in Orlando, and I was the team president. So I was showing all the other seniors around, and we were hanging out, and that's how I met him. And I was like, banking and finance, that sounds smooth. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do banking and finance too. And as I researched, I'm like, oh, well, that's money. Let me find out how to make this money, how to move money, how to get the money, and spend the money. And so that's one of the reasons. That's probably the main reason why I chose banking and finance, influence from someone else.
All right. So we graduated from Morehouse. Did we stay in Atlanta?
No, we didn't stay in Atlanta. I moved from Atlanta back to Eatonville. Okay. And I ended up working with the town of Eatonville. I became their youngest municipal clerk for the town of Eatonville.
Another first.
Another first, yeah.
Good for you. So how do we get this love for Boston? How do we get this connection? Because you got this banking and finance major from Morehouse. Then you get your master's
at University of Central Florida. So while I was at Morehouse, I was a lot of young men doing their internships in the Northeast.
Yes.
And I've always probably looked at myself as more of a cosmopolitan type person. And I always wanted to live in the Northeast. So these young men would do internships at the Bank of Boston and this and that, what have you. Okay. And my GPA at the time wasn't as good to do those type of internships, but I would hear them talk about it. And I was like, I want to live in New York or Boston.
Okay.
And that's where that kind of really hit. And I've always wanted to see snow because I didn't grow up seeing snow in Florida. Okay. So all of those added up, I wanted to be somewhere like that.
Okay. So you were able to make that move?
I made that move. I graduated from the University of Central Florida and made the move to Boston. I started working with Polaroid, which is like the top of the company.
That was huge back then.
That was huge. But I started working with them in 2001. This is after really their heyday, and they're still a little bit on the decline. Digital cameras were out.
Yeah.
I got there 6 months later. They went bankrupt.
Oh no.
Yes, and I ended up staying there because one of my frat brothers was the executive vice president for Polaroid. He started an insurance business and hired me to be his director of operations.
Okay. Is that how that happened?
That's how that happened. So
is that when you had your own company?
Nope. I was working for him with this insurance agency as a director of operations. Then I worked at this church as their director of operations and managed all of they had a lot of buildings, a lot of property. I managed all of that. I was their CFO. And I just ended up just finding my way and flowing through Boston.
Okay. Which is not... What did you find that was an easy thing to do? Because I've only passed through Boston twice, right? Either to go to Hyena's Port or the Vineyards, and we're going to talk about that. But I've heard that Boston is still a racist type of a city, even though it's a big city, it's a metropolis, it's in the Northeast. So did you find it difficult for you to find your way there?
Luckily, I'm part of fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and I pledged that Pi chapter. So, so one of my line brothers was living, and actually we started off as freshmen together at Morehouse. Okay,
that brotherhood thing is serious. Okay.
Yeah, the brotherhood thing is serious. So Khalil Bird was living there, and that was the only person I really knew. And so we connected, and it helped me to maneuver. But, I went to Boston with a purpose.
Understood, okay.
So whether I was going to make it, some by hook or crook, I wasn't really searching to be a billionaire or a multimillionaire or anything like that. I just wanted to make it and have a good time and really live that life in the Northeast. So I knew I was going to be there.
Let me ask you a question. Because even though your family has always been first and educated individuals, you said several times here, you're black sheep, you did your own little thing. Did this attitude of always wanting to make it stem from your family, or going to an HBCU, or seeing other people attend HBCUs? Where did that ignition come from for you?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay.
All of the above.
Okay.
I mean, unbeknownst to me, even as I was growing up, there were so many men who were Kappa men around me. Unbeknownst to me, there, like I said, even though I knew about all the Morehouse men, but there were so many more Morehouse men
Right.
who influenced me.
Right.
There were so many more people who were graduates, alums of HBCUs. And then, being at Morehouse, iron sharpens iron, going over to Spelman and going over to Clark.
Yeah.
And at Morris Brown, just seeing all this, black excellence everywhere, inspires you and makes you raise your game. Everything just contributed to me wanting to succeed and having that fire.
Got you. So now we're in Boston. You have a connection, boots on the ground, one of your freshman brothers. You're focused on, you're going to make it here. So now we got Hawthorne Property Management coming on.
Yes.
Boston Trust Realty Group. Like, you're really creating a footprint for yourself as an entrepreneur, as this financial and banking person, a real estate person.
Yeah. So I joined Boston Trust Realty Group. It's a black-owned real estate firm.
Awesome.
And it's a young brother who started it. He's doing amazing. He's doing some really big things. And I had the property management experience by when I was managing all the properties with St. Paul AME Church and all of that. And so I decided during the pandemic in 2021 to start my own property management company, Hawthorne Property Management Group, LLC. So I managed properties and all those things. And the MBA served me well. The banking and finance served me well because I understand, how, when it comes to real estate and investment and how the cash flows and the different type of ROIs and all that, and really understanding asset management and making sure my clients have a great return on their investment, it really served me well. And working with Boston Trust Realty Group and seeing these young black people doing their thing, it's just really dope. And I think it all comes together, and I really see some greater things in the future.
So how did this idea come up with you and possibly others in wanting to pay it forward? So now you're a graduate of Morehouse, you have your MBA, you're doing great things as a business person in Boston. Why was it important for you to create this conduit, if you will, for young Boston men to possibly get to Morehouse?
So one of the things that I skipped over, once I graduated from Morehouse, within the first year, I was one of the charter members for the Winter Park Alumni Chapter, Kappa Alpha Psi. So I would start doing some leadership type things right after graduating. And that chapter was founded a year after I graduated from Morehouse on my birthday. It was a great birthday present, March 14th. And so, and I was also part of their Guide Right. I was the Guide Right chair. So Guide Right chair means I was working with youth, and I was doing mentoring programs and all of that. So when I was at age 23, 24, I was already doing those type of things.
Awesome.
And I also became the president of the Morehouse Alumni Chapter in Orlando as well. Around that time, and making sure that we were doing different programs. We always had the Morehouse College Glee Club. So I was doing those things already. So I was doing those things at age 23, 24 in the Orlando area. So once I got to Boston, it's kind of like rinse and repeat. I just know I had the game plan. I was just sitting back, biding my time on when I can get in, because every area has its cliques.
Yep.
Every area has its cliques. You have, all your different socialites in here and there. And I wasn't in that, I wasn't there. However, I was like, I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
And now, I can't say I'm here. But I do have some influence and able to really move the way I want to in the Boston area. Despite, when you talk about the racism in Boston, you're talking about Boston is not the easiest place to succeed.
I didn't think so.
People say if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I say if you make it in Boston, you can really, really do it. And I will say this: if you think about the major cities in the United States, Boston is no more racist than any of those cities.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I mean, it was highlighted because of what happened in the 60s and 70s with busing.
Yeah.
You saw that play out.
Yeah.
And then there are also other incidences that happen, but you have incidences that happen all over the
Everywhere.
country.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Boston is interesting, but you've made your way. Tell me a little bit more about your organization and what you're trying to do for these young men in the Boston area.
So I'm the president of the Greater Boston Morehouse College Alumni Association, and I can't start with me because the Alumni Association of Boston was started in 1972 by Dr. Lewis Sullivan. And if you know anything about Dr. Sullivan was he was the Secretary of Health and Human Services under George Bush the first in the late 80s, early 90s, and he also was the dean, the first dean, and started the Morehouse Medical School. So he's done a lot of firsts.
Wow.
So I stand on the shoulders of him, and then and all of this is going to tie in together in a moment. And then you had John Wilson, who was the president of the Greater Boston Morehouse College Alumni Association. He had this thing that he hooked up with Spike Lee, who was his classmate, and they did this thing called the Mo Better Gala. You know, because he did this movie, Mo Better Blues.
Mo Better Blues.
Oh, that was my favorite movie.
With
But
Denzel?
oh my God,
I'm
yeah.
gonna just leave that right
Oh yeah, that with Denzel. Well, so Denzel's my dude. I love Denzel, but that was my favorite date movie when I was in college. And so he had the Mo Better Gala, which spanned the 90s, and they raised a ton of money, put together endowed scholarship fund at Morehouse College for the Greater Boston, or we affectionately say the GBMCAA. So that was there. So that was baked into the DNA. And Boston was already one of the premier alumni associations, even though we're the smallest. And so you had, after John Wilson, you had other presidents who were doing some amazing things. And then here I come.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, and I wasn't like trying to say, okay, I didn't mean to make a stamp, but I knew I had something brewing in me. So I became the president in 2016. I think probably around that 2015, 14 time. I know I was doing a lot of soul searching. I was, transitioning jobs and everything. And one of the things I realized, because I was just praying and talking with God, and I realized that my purpose was to help young black men search for, realize, and grow their potential. I've always been able to connect with young black men.
That's good.
And I've always been like a mentor, big brother type. So I was like, what can I do? And of course, I went to Morehouse. I have this vehicle with the GBMCAA as the president. What can we do? So, oddly enough, I like going to the Vineyard. And I was like, okay, I was talking with the guy, like, what can we do to get on the Vineyard for free and party?
That FAMU is in you, man.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, but that
partying
rattler.
thing is in
Oh,
you.
man, them rattlers, boy, they always find a way to get a good party on. But you got to also understand now, wait a minute. When it comes to the party, no one beats Morehouse because we had the biggest party of all, Freaknik. I grew up in the Freaknik era.
Yeah, I was there. I'm not in the documentary. I didn't do anything I'm ashamed of. But
I didn't.
I had a good time.
I had a great time. They would have had me front and center on the documentary. I've been like, yeah, that's me. Hey, so we want to find a way to have a great time,
Right.
raise money, and also raise the profile of Morehouse College. And I came up with this name because I heard, you got the Pirates on the Vineyard, which is Hampton. You got the Bisons on the Vineyard,
Which is Howard.
I was like, oh, House on the Vineyard.
Okay.
Or the House on the Vineyard. But we shortened it to House on the Vineyard.
House on the Vineyard.
And that's how that started. And the purpose of it, we vacation with a purpose.
Yes.
And we started that. We started doing. We honored, the first person we honored was Charles Ogletree. And we did it at Dr. Sullivan's house. He has this beautiful house on the Vineyard.
Nice.
And the first year we did was 2017, and it was our sesquicentennial, which is our 150th anniversary of Morehouse College. 2017, it was there. Dr. Ogletree was there. All the alums and so many different dignitaries. And the first people group of people that really supported House on the Vineyard was the class of '97 Spelman College.
Beautiful.
So Spelman was in effect.
The women came through.
Oh, the women, the sisters,
women
you know, the sisters always come through. And I have to shout.
Love it.
Yeah, I have to shout out my niece Kimmer Wissenot, Dr. Kimmer Wissenot, because when I told her about it, she told her sisters, and they came out to support, and they've been supporting ever since.
Thank you, ladies.
Which kind of led into us having one of the biggest parties on the Vineyard called the Spell House HBCU Beach Party. Last year we had over 1,000 people there.
Wow. From
HBCUs and PWIs. You had Harvard there, Duke. But of course you had all the HBCUs. Right. And it was just a great event, family friend. Beautiful. You had all these families, black families, all this black excellence. Yes. It was just a sea of black folks, and it was just awesome. And so that part of Spelman being there and supporting us has really grown everything we've done on the Vineyard. So what we do, we take the scholarships. One of the things we do, we provide scholarships, but other things we do, we have young men who come up to Boston do internships.
Nice.
So if they come up, you know, Dean Booker would give me a call, or Henry Goodgame would give me a call, who, you know, both of these are vice presidents at Morehouse, or other people. Ilya Davis, who's a professor, they'll call me and say, DeVonn, you got these guys up there. What I'll do, take them out to eat.
Nice.
Show them around the city. Do different things. See, it's not always about the scholarships. These young men, they want hand-on. Yeah. They want someone they can call up and say, Mr. Baker, this is what's going on. How do I handle this? I'm like, well, okay. Well, when I was in school, I did X, Y, Z. You know, it's a little different time. Maybe you should look at it from this point, or look at it from this point. Are you talking to your professors, or what are you doing? Okay, you can't be coming to Morehouse and not have less than a 3.5 GPA. Wow. That's what you need to do. Because if you have a 3.5 GPA, Morehouse is a feeder school to Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Duke, all the graduate programs. It's a feeder school. They're looking for you. If you have the right GPA, you can go do everything you want. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you this. Why? Because I didn't have that GPA. And if I would have had the GPA, I would have gone. I definitely would have been at Harvard Business School or something like that. And then you can do it without it.
Right.
You can do it. I could go now. You know, I have the connections. I do whatever. But I'm telling you, young men, this is what you want to do if you want to succeed. Whether you want to be an educator, whether you want to have your own private equity company, whether you want to do this. And it also affords me the opportunity. I get a chance to kind of put people together all the time. So I get a chance to connect these young men with different things that are going on in Boston, and with some of the great, you know, either internships, companies, or just people in general. Right. That's what I do.
Life skills. So it's bigger than the scholarships.
Yes.
It's life skills.
Yes.
It's being a connection. Being a person that
being a resource.
A resource that people can talk to and have, and you're relational. So I'm going to ask this question.
Yes.
Late 80s, early 90s, Morehouse, totally different to Morehouse today. Is it not? Is that a fair statement?
It is.
Okay.
It is a fair statement.
In the sense of the goals that you might have had, you and your other brothers coming through Morehouse in the late 80s, early 90s, are those the same goals that you're seeing in these young men today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, the actual core, fundamental core values of Morehouse have not changed.
Still there.
They're still there.
Good to know.
Other things have changed, you know, the housing, the buildings, other things are changing.
Right.
But the core values.
Just corporate America has changed.
Yes. But the core values that I see in these young men, it has not changed.
Good. That's awesome. That's awesome. So what do you want for, what's next? So let's talk about this foundation. So House on the Vineyard, right?
Yes.
So it's going on, it's good. So how many young men have been awarded scholarships thus far through this program?
So we have an endowed scholarship set up at Morehouse. It has grown from when I arrived as president from around $300,000 to over $500,000.
Wow, that's great.
And so we award typically over $20,000 a year in scholarships.
Nice.
So we've had quite a number of young men take advantage of the scholarships. Awesome. And not only that, we've also given money to different societies at Morehouse, such as the Medical Society. So in 2019, we honored like 3 medical doctors.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, it was Charlie Rouse, Ernest Page, and Monty Harris. They all received an award, what we call the Lux Award. And so we gave around $20,000 to that medical society in the fall during homecoming for that. Nice. Other things we've done during the pandemic, we raised enough money. We were still getting money. And let me step back because I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out. I have to do this. So TJX, have you heard of TJX Companies?
No.
TJX Companies is the parent company of Marshalls, Home Goods, TJ Maxx, and all of those stores. So you have this conglomerate of stores, right? Their home base is Boston.
Did not know that.
And they really want, they work with us tightly. So let me backtrack even a little bit. So TJX started working with the Greater Boston Morehouse College Alumni Association in the 90s under John Wilson. He built that relationship.
Nice.
All I've done was take it to another level. Because at one point, TJS was thinking about kind of cutting us off.
Really?
Yeah, so I think we had it set up for me to meet with them after I became president. I was just coming back from homecoming, probably just a little inebriated. Probably.
Just a smidgen.
Just a smidgen. Go in the office, I'm talking to Roger, and Roger's like, so he was grilling me. So what are y'all going to do? What are you going to do with us? And whatever, our relationship was very, it wasn't relational. It was just transactional. And I sit back, I cross my legs, and I'm like, well, we're going to make an effort to have you connect with Morehouse students, number one. We're also going to make an effort to have a greater impact within the Boston community, right? And one of the ways we're going to do this is through House on the Vineyard. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah. So then at that point, I asked him for $80,000.
Wow.
And he gave it to us.
That's what's up.
And
you have not because you asked not.
Right. And TJX has been a great partner for us. And we also have this thing called the Young Men's Leadership Conference. I haven't even gone into that part of it. And so that's a one-day conference where we have middle school and high school young men who come and they do several different workshops throughout that day. Yeah. Focusing on financial literacy, STEM. This past year we had fraternities come out so they can, understand. We also have a parent track so the parents get a chance to talk, to learn and ask questions when it comes to college admissions, financial aid, all of those things. So that what they do for us funds all of this, helps fund all these different programs. We also give gifts to, we have this thing where we call the Christmas gift wrap. And so with Spelman and Morehouse, we have a social, people bring gifts, and then we donate those gifts to families in need. This past year, I think one sister brought a laptop. So this family, they received laptops, and toys and gifts and all those. So we do all of those things so we can do all these things in the communities. Now, coming back to, and during the pandemic, we had enough money where we gave, I used to be the chair of the board for the Roxbury YMCA. Yep. So we gave $20,000 to the Roxbury YMCA so they can help them, so they could buy, have clothes, food and everything for the families. We learned at Morehouse that it's not just about giving to Morehouse, it's about giving to your community. We have to be leaders and give everything we can to your community. So we gave, to them, we gave to Morehouse during the pandemic. We did everything we could. And I'm so proud of my fellow Morehouse alum. I'm so proud of just all the black men who've supported the GBMCA and black women and people in general throughout my tenure as president from 2016 till now.
It's about community. I want to ask you a question because you brought up about this great relationship with TJ Maxx, that whole company, and how they've been supporting you guys over the years. I saw last year, or maybe the year before, this whole Ralph Lauren campaign.
Yes.
The Morehouse sweaters.
Polo.
And the clothing. And I know some Morehouse men went out and got it, sporting it, wearing it at homecoming. I saw them. There was the pictures and everything. Is it a possibility to have a similar relationship with Ralph Lauren Polo so that they can funnel some of the revenue to what you're doing with House on the Vineyard and scholarships? Is that a possibility?
You know what?
About?
That's something to think about. I mean, if anyone
That's what
from representing Ralph Lauren and everything, they want to write some checks.
That's what I'm here for.
And whatnot, and they could be a title sponsor for House on the Vineyard. But we have some things in the pipeline right now as far as we're looking at title sponsor. I mean, House on the Vineyard it's a big thing. And if you want to learn more about House on the Vineyard, you can go to houseonthevineyard.com. Houseonthevineyard.com is the website where you can see what goes on, because we have what we call the Legacy of Light soiree, where we honor Black excellence. See, the Legacy of Light. Have you ever had a Maine lobster?
Yes, I have.
Aren't they succulent? It's so
delicious.
Good. So if you're coming to Boston, or you're coming to Martha's Vineyard,
yes,
the thing to do is make sure you get a New England clam bake.
Okay.
Right? And with the clam bake, you get the clams, you get the lobster, you get the, of course,
the potatoes.
And the new potatoes and the corn and, some sausage.
Yes.
But you get all types of seafood that comes along with it, Now, if you're allergic to shellfish, do not do not do the clam bake. However, so within the while we're honoring Black excellence, we're also going to have a clam bake during that time. We have a live music band. Another one of our partners have the Uncle Nearest. They've been great partners with us, and we're looking to have them back with us again this year. They really sponsored our clam bake last year and did a magnificent job. So we have open bar, complimentary libations, all those type of things. We have just a great time. We vacation with a purpose. Then, after that, we have this thing, like I said, the Spell House Beach Party. Spell House HBCU Beach Party. This year it's a silent beach party. There's a lot of rules and regulations on Martha's Vineyard. They don't want music just blasting everywhere. Yeah. So now we're going to have the headphones, and everybody will just be jamming on the headphones. Yeah. DJ Tron is our DJ.
I like DJ Tron.
Oh, he kills it, doesn't it?
Awesome.
DJ Tron. He DJs all of our events on the Vineyard.
All of them.
And he's also my frat brother. That's probably one of the reasons we brought him into the frat, because he could DJ. Yeah, and our parties were lit because of that. But anyway, and then we also have this other party called the Rep Party. You represent your fraternity, sorority, organization, school, what have you. Yeah. People just come in wearing whatever they repping, and we just sweat our wig out.
Wow.
We just sweat it out, and so we have a lot of people come to that. But I think what really kicked off the House on the Vineyard after we had that first year, we had Angie Stone and PJ Morton in concert the second year.
Nice.
And that was the biggest risk. Yes. Second year.
Ooh,
and let me
nice.
tell you, boy, look at here. I was so nervous because I was like, man, I don't know how we're going to pay for all this, but we did. God is good. And we made it through that second year because I didn't know if we were going to make it. Everybody was telling me not to do it. We couldn't do it.
No. This is it. This is legacy work right here. What are the dates for House on the Vineyard?
August 5th through August 11th. Mm-hmm. August 5th through August 11th. I mean, and it's open to everybody. I mean, it's not just Morehouse men and Spelman Knights who come. I mean, we have people who attended PWIs. We honored people who went to PWIs. We've honored people such as John Jackson, who's the CEO of the Schott Foundation, who went to Xavier University. We've honored people such as Dr. Keith Motley, who was the provost dean or what have you at University of Massachusetts, Boston. Mm-hmm. Great influencer. Mm-hmm. We've honored people such as Victoria Edie Butler, who's the master blender and a great, great, great niece, I want to say, of Uncle Nearest. Mm. All right. We've honored people such as Scott Bolden, who is an alum, but also on the board. Scott Bolden and Willie Woods. Willie Woods is the chair of the board for Morehouse, and Scott Bolden is the secretary of the board for Morehouse College. And we've also honored people like Otis Moss III. Mm. He's also a Morehouse man. Benny Wiley. So Benny Wiley, who was at one point on the board for Howard University. Mm. She started a program I bet I'm going to call it the wrong thing. Somebody's going to correct me out there. But she started this program for Black people to kind of keep them engaged and to retain them, keep them in Boston, because Boston's a very transit city. People go there to go to school, then they leave.
And they leave.
Especially Black folks. But, many companies hire, I think it's called the Fellowship, or I forgot the name of it, and I'm very sorry about that. But they would, companies would pay to put their employees through this program, and they're learning different things, not only about Boston, about skills within your job, and networking and whatnot. And so many people have become C-suite or stayed in the Boston area because of this program. She didn't start the program, but she was a major contributor, and she was also a CEO of that program. And she's a Howard alum. It's so many different people who've done some great things that, Black excellence, when we talk about Black excellence, actually we really shouldn't talk about it, because every day is
Black excellence in this room right now.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's every day. It's in our DNA. I don't think that, and it's ancestral, right? Because we have gotten it from our ancestors, realistically. We do what we do, and I think it's become so, I don't want to normalize it, but it's part of who we are as people. And it's like, if you've been blessed and you've been fortunate, it's always like, well, how can I extend this on to someone else? How can I help at least one person, right? If you help one, it's like you've helped 1,000. How can I pay it forward? It's very important. I think it's a very small number of people who don't really care. I got mine, you got to figure out how you get yours. But I think because the times are changing, and especially if you have kids, that's a whole nother thing, if you have children. But oftentimes, it's just because I've made it, I want to see other people make it too. I've made some mistakes. I don't want people to make the same mistakes that I've made.
Exactly.
Because that'll save you time and effort and money and heartache if necessary, So it's always been that kind of thing. I want to ask you this. For Boston, why do you feel that why is it that it's transient? Why don't people want to stay in Boston? You have any idea why that might be? We can't get rid of people in Atlanta. They come here just for a weekend, and then they like, we moving.
Well, the great migration of people to Atlanta, that kind of really happened, but from the 80s through the 90s, you know what I'm saying? I remember.
I've been since 89.
Yeah, and so, but, it's like all these, everybody wanted, hey, all the Black people in Atlanta, let's go to Black mayors, all of that. Yeah. It's just the culture.
It's the culture.
Boston is, people look at Boston, it's like, it's white as it can be.
And it's cold.
And all my family members were like, why in the hell are you moving to Boston?
Because you wanted to see snow.
Because you want to see snow. You fool, you. What the hell is this going on?
You went from sandals all your life.
Right.
Toes hanging out in Florida.
And I was about to wear sandals today. I was like, okay, I'm going to put on some shoes. Because I've been wearing sandals since I got off the plane in sandals. Went to the airport in Boston in sandals. My toes are a little chilly, but it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, it was okay. I love, so yeah, I'm Florida style for a while, all day, every day, twice on Sunday. But, Boston has so much opportunity. And when I thought about moving to Boston, I was thinking about, okay, number one, it's one of the oldest cities in the United States.
It is.
I mean, it's really where it's, where, patriotism and where the United States was founded and born.
It was the port. Yeah.
It's very important. So you think about that, you think about Philly, you think about Boston. It's New England.
Yeah, it is.
Why is it called New England?
Yeah.
So when you think about the 13 original colonies and all that, you got to think about Massachusetts and Boston. One of the reasons why people leave is all the things we outlined. Culture is not there if you have, like in DC, Atlanta, Chicago, LA, whatever. You don't have that. You have so many you have a lot of schools there. Some of the top schools in the country, in the Boston area. And then you get hired by some, these other companies probably outside of Boston. And sometimes you look at, and some of the students probably had a rough time in Boston. So it's kind of tough. So, but if you're coming from the South and you move to Boston, you're excited about it until the winter hits, and then you're like, it's kind of tough. So you need, and the name of the program is called the Partnership. So you need things like the Partnership. We also honored another young lady who was the president and CEO of the Partnership, who also is one of the vice presidents of TJX Companies, Beverly Edgel. And she's been a great resource for us. I have so many different relationships.
You make me want to visit more.
You know, Boston, I'm going to tell you, and people come to visit and they find out, man, Boston is the bomb. I'm like, it's a beautiful city. The food is excellent, especially if you love seafood, or if you love Italian food. You can go to the North End, or if you want to have this, whatever you want, I can make sure you have it in Boston because it's there.
What are your goals this year for House on the Vineyard? Do you have a goal set in mind for this year? And then we'll talk about future goals.
So one of the goals I have for this year, I definitely need, I intend, or we want to raise over $150,000 in just corporate sponsorship. We want to engage more corporate sponsorship. Okay. We also want to increase the profile of Morehouse Spelman and all the HBCUs. We also intend to engage more people when it comes to HBCUs and understanding and learning more about them. We also want to engage people when it comes to our health, physical and mental health.
Very important.
I'm learning a lot about that recently, about our health and mental health.
Very important.
And we just want to see families vacation with a purpose.
We don't do that enough.
Right. And Martha's Vineyard is a great place for black families to vacation. You have to understand, there wasn't many places where black families could go and vacation. And other than Martha's Vineyard. And surprisingly in the Northeast.
In the Northeast.
In New England specifically. Yeah. So there's so many and there's so many people I know who grew up around the Northeastern corridor who went to party on the Vineyard for 4th of July. And they ended up either, buying a home or what have you. But you have people who've been on the Vineyard, their families have been on there for generations.
I know. And I learned that through the Inkwell movie.
Yeah.
From just seeing that, to me that was Black excellence then, but just families were there. And when I did visit the Vineyard in 2018, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful energy there because it was Black people there as well as the locals.
Right.
But it was stuff for us to do. We were there. There was a presence. They owned homes there.
Right.
It was, people that visit said, I came here every summer when I was a kid. I remember, riding the ferries and going to the beach and riding. It's a bike town, like the Vineyards.
There's no traffic lights on it. There's not a traffic light on the Vineyard. Not one traffic light.
Not one.
Not one traffic light.
You ride bikes and your cars, and it's just, so it is a different energy and vibe.
And it's safe.
And it's safe there.
It's safe. It's very safe. When I see 10, 13-year-old kids hanging out at 11 o'clock, and I'm like, what the hell going on here? But they're having a good time.
It is.
It's just so safe. It's family friendly. You can just be.
Yeah.
And, which is the beautiful thing about HBCUs. When you go there, you can just be.
There has been a lot of conversation. I am going to put a pinky in the political space for just a second.
All right.
There has been a lot of attention around HBCUs, even with the former President Trump, his alleged, whatever his contributions have been allegedly for HBCUs. Now in the current administration with Biden, and you have Kamala Harris, Madam Vice President, and she is a proud Bison, right, yes, going to Howard. It is a great opportunity to continue to put the spotlight on all HBCUs, right? Even athletically, right? The things that Deion Sanders has done to shine the light, and then what Dawn Staley, Staley was able to do with the Gamecocks. It is a vibration that's happening because people are realizing, outside of brown and Black people, that there are talented, smart, entrepreneurial people that go to HBCUs. And so it's a great opportunity to tap into those resources now that the light is on us, to say, hey, those green dollars, we can actually use them because we can put them to good use.
Definitely. And, I think about, many HBCUs, like United Negro College Fund, they support HBCUs, mostly private institutions. Because they, private institutions do not get the dollars from the state, from as public schools like Florida A&M is the public school, so they get some money from the state of Florida. But there's an inequity there because, I don't know if FAMU is if they did receive the same type of money that a University of Florida or Florida State received, especially when you talk about athletic programs, they would be a powerhouse as well. You think about those things, and if we do so much more with less. Now, and I love my HBCUs, but I also, do some critique of HBCUs as well, because if we don't critique or have some positive, when we have some, talk about our HBCUs, we should also talk about, some of the shortcomings and how can we fix those shortcomings. Some HBCUs or many HBCUs do not provide the customer service that we need. Now I would say the HBCU I know that provides the best customer service from my vantage point is Spelman College.
Yeah.
Proof is in the pudding of how you see those sisters give back to the schools. And if HBCUs want to see more of their alumni give back to the schools, they have to provide better customer service.
Wow.
And when you provide great customer service to all your stakeholders, not to your students, and I'm saying stakeholders are your students, their families, their alums, when you talk about the faculty or even benefactors, you look at all the stakeholders across the board. When you provide everybody great customer service, I grew up in Orlando. I know what great customer service looks like because I grew up in the town of Mickey Mouse. And I've worked around and with Mickey Mouse, and I see what it takes to provide great customer service. You might not have the biggest staff, but you can still make sure you provide great customer service. You might not be able to talk to someone on the phone when they call right there, but you can always say, or leave a message or get back to them and say, I will get back to you. Anything. You just have to provide great. And when you have a great experience, because most alums have a great experience at HBCUs, but one piece that I think would take it over the top is even better customer service.
That's good to know.
It's all it is constructive criticism.
Good to know. House on the Vineyard. Dates again.
August 5th through the 11th.
How can people find out more information about House on the Vineyard?
House on the Vineyard, you can go to thehouseonthevineyard.com. Or you can, if you want to send an email, I'm president@gbmcaa.org, president@gbmcaa.org. I also give my phone number out, well, I don't know, because see, some people, they start, those people, email at houseonthevineyard.com.
There you go.
Now, on our webpage, you'll see that. Now, the Vineyard is different. You won't find Marriott's, Holiday Inn, Ritz-Carlton, whatever level and whatever type of hotel you want, they don't find it. You have to, book, usually sometimes real estate agents to get your houses. They are smaller brand hotels. They're not national brand. They're also, you have bed and breakfast. You can do Airbnb and all that. So you have to be creative when you get to the Vineyard. And those who know. So find people who know about the Vineyard and say, hey, listen, how's this thing work? Sometimes and many times I say, well, you should start looking for your housing a long time ago. But there are gyms out there you are able to find houses. It can be a little tough. Also, the prices of the housing actually has fallen.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
they had a little pricey at one time.
It was getting pricey. Ooh, I don't know. I was thinking they're trying to price us out or something, but no, it's kind of dropped a little bit.
Good.
And there's just so much to do. So during the week we have House on the Vineyard is the African American Film Festival as well. The African American Film Festival is awesome. And so you have so many different celebrities coming in who are hanging out on the Vineyard during that time, and just people just hanging out in general. You're going to see a little bit of everybody on the Vineyard.
Now, I know we want the people to get there, but sometimes schedules don't allow us to make it, because really here in Georgia, that's the first week of school.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know why. Kids should go back to school after Labor Day so we can feel like we have a full summer with the rest of the country. But For those that cannot make it, is there a way they can donate?
Oh my goodness, Lord, I tell you. See, that's what I'm talking about. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
Amen. Now, I got the offering plate right here. And I got the virtual offering plate.
Yes.
Again, it's houseonthevineyard.com and you can give. Houseonthevineyard.com. You'll see a big give button at the top of the page. You can always give. And let the church say all right, Lord have mercy, Jesus on my soul, because my soul needs mercy.
Yes. I want to thank you for your time. I want to shout out Carla Morrison, who made this happen today. She's such a good person. She knows good people. Appreciate her work and all that she does here.
Chit Chat Communications.
Chit Chat Communications, all that she's done in the Atlanta area. She helps to make people look great, get to know their brands and getting their brands out there. So keep up the good work, Carla. This was a wonderful conversation.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You didn't have to do this to let my,
This was good. This was good because it's all about community. And we appreciate everything that you've done, your history of work. You've always been giving back since your early 20s. That's over 25 years of you paying it forward. So I want to wish you nothing but continued success in everything that you continue to do.
Thank you. And you too. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Listen, that's my time, Real Chicks Rock. You know me, I'm everywhere. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook. Go check out the website, subscribe, because we blog, we do newsletters. You need a t-shirt, go to realchicksrock.com. Summertime is coming, it's springtime. Show yourself off in the t-shirt, you'll look great. And when you do that, take a picture and tag me on the picture. I'd love to see you in it. But listen, before I go, I always want to leave you with this. I love Frankie Crocker when I was growing up as a kid. He was on WPLS 107.5 in New York City, and he would always end his show with this. May you live to be 100, and I live to be 100 minus a day. So I never knew that beautiful people like you had passed away. Thank you for checking out Real Chicks Rock Presents Real Discussions. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next show.